pleased to have people from business here, because we also want to have your input in terms of integrating what we do at Murdoch in terms of the future of management education. You know, when I walk around St George's Terrace, Wall Street, Fleet Street, I ask people in business, what do you want from our students? And they say to me, after they walk away from me, they say, well, we want the students to be work ready. We want them to be lifelong learners. We want them to be able to solve practical problems, and we want to be able to identify opportunities. In order for us to have a presentation today, we wanted to create a panel which has at least 3 views. Now, we have blended views here. So we have an academic perspective, we have a business perspective, and a government perspective.
So the impetus for the Future of Management Education initiative was the result of a series of events coming together that included the changing nature of organizations through technology that was creating a new framework for business operations and called upon a new set of skills for the 21st century workforce. Success in business now depended on this new framework and needed to blend some traditional processes along with some new modes of working. Companies needed to understand this new technological revolution that was going on and what it meant for them and how they need to adapt. And so management education needs to reframe its program to focus heavily on innovation in a global environment. And these forums were extremely useful because they told us that business needed strong leadership and managerial skills. They valued innovation, creativity, and problem-solving skills. They told us that students certainly would benefit from experiential opportunities to work with business and obviously needed softer communication skills and interpersonal skills. Management in Australia, we were pretty well told, did not value people enough. I'm not sure if this is a pattern of what skill needs business executives think they should have. I'm not absolutely convinced they really know what they need, but they do tend to say the same things. And when you drill down and ask them, but what do you think? What do you mean by creativity? What do you mean by innovation? They have a lot of difficulty. So what I'm saying is, I'm not absolutely convinced that business and business executives have a clear understanding, one, what goes on in business schools, and two, what kind of skills they really do need to take them forward over the next couple of decades. I guess what probably overlays the series of recommendations is a sense of urgency. Despite the favorable setting that business innovation, favorable setting in Australia for business innovation and entrepreneurship, because we have a highly educated population, because we're relatively good in our research output, and we have a relatively good performing economy, Australia's innovation system is not as efficient as it is in other high-performing economies. In fact, it's bad, terrible, and getting worse. It's stagnant. And this, in turn, has been correlated with our declining productivity. And what has been recognized is that innovation is the key to productivity growth. So the Future of Management Education recommendations clearly spell out the need for business schools and industry to deepen their collaboration so that innovative experiential models of teaching and learning are offered to students, which are at the same time relevant to business needs and contribute to the sharp competitive edge that characterizes a modern knowledge economy. Business schools must produce graduates with interdisciplinary skills that include collaboration, problem solving, and entrepreneurial thinking. A country's skill base is commonly measured by a proxy measure of education innovation ready, and my guess is Australia would not score very highly on that proxy measure. Management education, in my view, must be at the forefront of Australia's changing economy so that we're both prepared and excited to meet the challenges of the coming decade. And Australia is in an excellent position to meet these challenges because we have a strong foothold on many of the industries that are in global demand. industries such as agriculture, education, biomedical and health research, smart manufacturing. Business schools need to educate business about their value and worth. The Future of Management Education project showed us that business does not look to business schools for expert guidance, and that is part of the problem. Business and industry don't fully appreciate and apply the knowledge and impact of practical research inherent in business schools. Things like the changing role of manufacturing and service industries, international trends, future global trends, success and failure, understanding failure, and how it can teach us to do better the next time. Business schools must be responsive and become the indispensable educational partners for business in the wider community. They must also be instructive for business in demonstrating convincingly how management education will address the complex, high-tech, increasingly globalized business environment that is in play and operates in an interdisciplinary and interprofessional setting.
I have two hats. I work in the innovative space of big data and advanced analytics, and also work in the customer space. And the thing that we always have with our customers, and I've got quite a few universities as major customers, is that we design products and services without asking the customer. And so we think what the best next product is going to be. And in the connected world that we live in today, if we don't work together on a shared problem, and that shared problem is work ready, because it's costing me a lot of money when students aren't work ready. As business, we actually need niche education more than ever, but that means flexible education. I have so many spaces where I'm willing to put corporate money and corporate time at getting some of my staff better. So there is a real need for business schools to offer flexible, short, quick solutions that are practical, because I've actually reduced the number of graduates that I hire year on year, even though my business is growing. And that's quite a scary phenomenon. And that's happening because in most organizations we have a triangle-based approach. So you have someone at the top and there's someone above them, and then the management, and then all the way down to your graduate. So we just focus on the graduate level for a second. Our triangle's gone thinner, yet we do the same amount of work. And on the right-hand side, I'm hiring from adjacent industries. I'm hiring a lot more engineers than I've ever hired before, because the engineers are now offering critical problem-solving skills that I don't find available within the business thinking community. And the engineering industry has become a lot better at being able to connect to strategy. And so, so that business pie has shrunk. I'm hiring adjacent industries and adjacent experience. And on the left-hand side, I'm hiring overseas, not just cheap labor, labor that is twice as good as what I can buy here. So for a quarter of the cost, the comparable consultant that I've got that in Australia would have 1 to 3 years of experience starts with a minimum of 3 to 5 years of experience. And the senior consultant here that has 3 to 5 years of experience, I'm buying in India's 5 to 10 years of experience. So we're no longer just having a cost play, we're having a significant capability play. And the skills that we are buying in that space are mind-blowing. In the business space, the material is developing faster than business schools can now turn them out.
A big contrast between Australia and the US is that the big companies, the big multinationals, like Raytheon, IBM, Northrop Grumman, a lot of them are actually pushing universities and saying, these are the skills we need. You have to get your curriculum sorted because this is what we need and we need it now. And that's what I mean about a sense of urgency.
Yep.
There's not even a national conversation going on here about the coming decade and what we're going to need.
And then there is this pressure, which also you've really raised quite well in the report, which is around the need, and Kurt's touched on it a little bit, around the need for real-world experiences in education. And I think that shift, and it's what I would call a pedagogic shift as well, is also a really big challenge for universities, because we are geared up for lectures, we are geared up for seminars. Those modes of delivery don't necessarily always fit so well with experiential and real-world learning. But I think innovation is really key, and I think it's actually quite difficult to teach innovation in a kind of direct way. It's something that, in constructivist terms, we kind of come to that through a process of our experiences. And for me, that's why learning and teaching in the modern environment and in the modern university is really about the learning experience rather than the curriculum. So I think for me, it's a journey that we're on now, and we need to understand that journey and understand how we can actually work together across the different sectors to make that experience really rich. And I think in order to do that, we need to actually walk hand in hand with the different sectors. How do we also offer that experiential learning? Work integrated learning obviously is going to be an important part of that. Internships, placements, probably having co-creation of content and co-creation of curriculum. These are the kinds of ways that I think we'll work together. And so for me, it's really about stepping back a little bit as well and having a kind of more compelling vision for learning in the future. And for me, that learning or new learning, as I talk about it in my book, is really about social interactive learning. It's about immersion and engagement. It's about the adaptive curriculum, as Kurt was talking about, and it's really about personalisation. So really thinking about that learning journey as a learning journey of one rather than a learning journey of a mass. Some of the things that came out of that report as well are around, and that support some of the work that I've been doing, are kind of really around challenge-based pedagogy. So how can we actually start to look at particular challenges? And I really like the idea of industry kind of leading on that and saying, look, this is the problem, this is the key problem in our industry. You know, help us to solve this problem. And I think really the problems should come from industry, not really from academia, and we should then try and support to kind of move forward in those areas. And I think that kind of problem setting, challenge setting is something that could actually be quite fun, quite engaging, and quite a good way to bring the sectors together as well. And you know, there's a lot of new tools out there that we can do this with. You know, we've got all the social software tools, we've got content syndication, Khan Academy, open access resources, gamification, badging. You know, there's so many ways that we can actually borrow those tools in order to make learning more exciting and more relevant to everyone. So what then would be our kind of next steps? I see this as very much a conversation and dialogue between the two different sectors and beyond. I do think that university can play a really massively important role in supporting this type of approach, and I think universities will continue to produce very high quality candidates. And I think, you know, we do have more global competition, of course, but I think it's really up to us to make sure that students are better than the other students, and that we really actually rise to that challenge of preparing students to be work ready and to have the right employability skills and to be able to be creative, to be innovative. We've got a lot of benefits, you know, we've got a lot of things to build on here. I don't think that we've lost this game. I think, you know, there is a positive message to come out of it, but we do have to lift our game. I think all of us probably have to lift our game a bit. Ultimately, I think we're moving towards, you know, a different world, but a more global and more connected and more industry-friendly world, which I think will be a really good thing.